So good evening, everyone. I'm Second Lieutenant Colin Boerger, and today I'm going to be talking to you all about Air Force ROTC. So a little overview, we're going to talk about, introduce myself, what is ROTC, the program timeline, as well as some professional development training, financial aid opportunities, and then some Air Force benefits and careers. So a little bit about myself. I'm a recent graduate of the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Go Blue. I graduated with a degree in computer science, and I focused on computer security. This is my first assignment, but after this, I'm going to be heading off to Vance Air Force Base in Anita, Oklahoma, for undergraduate pilot training. So if you're interested in the pilot selection process and how that all works, I'd be more than happy to talk about that. So what is ROTC? So Air Force ROTC's mission is to develop leaders of character for tomorrow's Air Force as well as Space Force. So what this means that Air Force ROTC is trying to take students who are attending college and develop them into the leaders of character that we need in tomorrow's Air Force and Space Force. So the main goal of this program is to commission officers into both the Air Force and Space Force. It's also offered at a little under 1,200 colleges and universities around the country, including some of our HBCUs that we have around the country. So if you're looking to do ROTC, there's a lot of different options for you to do in terms of what school you attend while you participate in the program. So one thing to know about Air Force ROTC is Air Force ROTC commissions officers. So to be an Air Force officer, this is going to require a degree. This is why Air Force ROTC is done concurrently with a bachelor's degree. They're also going to be the managers of the Air Force. So these are going to be the people that are making that higher level decision. I like to think of them like the CEO for the Air Force. In the Air Force, all of our flyers are also going to be officers. So if you're interested in being a pilot, Air Force ROTC can provide you that commission that you need in order to do that job. So enlisted personnel, these are going to be people with a high school diploma at a minimum. These are going to be people who are more hands-on, and they're going to be your technical experts. So if you think of a maintenance squadron, the officers in the maintenance squadron are going to be running all of the upper level management of that squadron, looking at making sure everyone's trained correctly, making sure everyone's scheduled correctly, making sure everything's being done in accordance with higher level guidance, kind of that higher level of management and also leadership. While the enlisted personnel in that maintenance squadron are going to be the ones who are physically using their wrenches and physically turning wrenches on planes and fixing the planes. So that's the difference between between being an officer and being enlisted in the Air Force. If you look to the left, you can see General Brown. General Brown is currently the highest ranking Air Force officer. He's the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and he's also a graduate of Air Force ROTC. So whether you plan on doing the minimum required commitment coming out of ROTC, or you want to make this your career and try to achieve the rank of general officer, Air Force ROTC can provide you with that opportunity. So what's the ROTC experience going to be like? So ROTC is going to be roughly 5 to 7 hours a week. It's going to be physical training, Air Force class, and leadership lab. Physical training is where you're going to be working out with your fellow cadets in order to pass the Air Force PT test and hopefully excel at that PT test. During class, you're going to be learning all of the necessary bookwork that you need to become an Air Force officer. So you're going to look at things like military history, military customs and courtesies, leadership principles. You're also going to look at current events, leadership case studies, basically all of the bookwork required that you're going to need to learn in order to become an Air Force officer. In Leadership Lab, you're going to take everything that you've learned in Air Force class and you're going to apply it in a more hands-on environment. It also allows you to get the full college experience. You're still going to be able to participate in things like Greek life, internships, sports. At the detachment I was at when I first got there, we had a cadet who was a Division I gymnast while also participating in Air Force ROTC. So really anything you want to do in college, you're going to be able to do with ROTC as long as you're able to manage your time effectively. You're also going to get a diverse group of friends and mentors. So Air Force ROTC is going to pull people from different colleges, different universities, different backgrounds, different majors, all coming together to work towards that one goal, commissioning into the United States Air Force. So this is the general program timeline. So it starts off with your GMC years. These are going to be the first 2 years. And think of this as the crash course and everything you need to know to be or to commission into the Air Force. It's going to give you 2 years to get those basics down. You're then going to go to field training, which is a 13-day leadership assessment at Maxwell Air Force Base, where you're going to be assessed on everything that you learned in those first 2 years. You're going to come back from field training with things you need to improve on, what you're good at. And then it's basically just going to be an assessment in terms of how ready are you to be an Air Force officer. Coming back, you're going to spend the next 2 years refining the skills that you developed in your first 2 years and really trying to work towards being an Air Force officer and work towards that commission. So that's going to be kind of the general program timeline. It is going to be a full 4-year program that takes place during your college time. So each year is going to correspond with a different year in college. So there's also opportunities for things called professional development trainings or PDTs. So this is going to be an opportunity for you to go out and do interesting things in order to develop yourself as a potential Air Force officer. So there's going to be opportunities to do things like Project Go, which is Project Global Officer. This is where you get sent either around the country or potentially around the world, and you learn a language for a summer, and you also immerse yourself in the culture. Again, this is an awesome opportunity open to cadets, and it allows people to study a language and really get the ability to learn in that immersive environment. It's also going to be all paid for by the Air Force. There's also the opportunity to do jumps. So this is going to be a program at the United States Air Force Academy where cadets are able to go and earn their jump wings. Again, it's an awesome opportunity to do something hard as well as challenge yourself in order to become, in order to prepare yourself for other challenging things you might have to do. There's also a program that I was able to participate in, the Advanced Course in Engineering. Again, this was an awesome program for me. It was an intensive engineering internship that focused on leadership in the cyber domain, as well as solving complex problems. And how do you lead in an environment where it's contested? So it's a great opportunity to learn with my fellow interns. And we also had people represented from the British military, as well as the Australian Defence Civilians. So it was a great joint environment to get with different people and learn in this intense environment. And it's something that I wouldn't have been able to do if it wasn't for Air Force ROTC. And there's also opportunities to learn more about the Air Force. So depending on where you come from, there might not be an Air Force base nearby. So this is a chance for you to take a visit in what's called a base visit. This is where you go to a base, you speak to the officers at the base and learn what they do on a day-to-day for their job. So there's a lot of jobs in the Air Force that do a lot of different things on a day-to-day basis, and it's hard to know them all. So this gives you a chance to go out to the base and speak to the people who are actually doing them. There's also opportunities for incentive flights. This is where they take you up in an airplane to try to give you a understanding of what it's like to fly in one of these planes. It's a really great opportunity. I was actually lucky enough to do an incentive flight in a C-130. Again, it was an awesome opportunity and it really opened my eyes to the aviation world, the aviation community. So scholarships. The Air Force has 2 major scholarships. So it's going to be the high school scholarship program and the in-college scholarship program. So if there are currently any seniors that are watching this program, the high school scholarship window has closed. So now the focus for you all would be the in-college scholarship program. And if there are any juniors potentially watching this presentation, the high school scholarship program is going to open up sometime in the summer. So be on the lookout if you're interested in earning a scholarship to help potentially pay for your college. The high school scholarship program provides students the opportunity to compete, put their name in, and apply for a scholarship that comes with Air Force ROTC. For seniors who missed the boat, there's still opportunities to earn scholarships while you're in college. I was actually the recipient of an in-college scholarship. So show up to ROTC, do the best that you can, and qualify for the program, and you'll have the opportunity to compete for a scholarship. On top of tuition, scholarships will provide stipends in the form of a monthly stipend, as well as a yearly book stipend, and also different colleges and universities give different aid to Air Force ROTC cadets. So this is something you're interested in. Again, feel free to reach out to me after this presentation is over. I'd be more than happy to walk you through the scholarship process and what that's going to look like. So another thing to know about Air Force ROTC is there are specific technical degrees that the Air Force looks for. So if you're interested in a technical degree, definitely make sure you apply for that technical scholarship, because that's something the Air Force is going to look for, because the Air Force is a technical branch. Again, also there are specific language degrees and specific language scholarships. If you're interested in pursuing a language scholarship, definitely reach out to your local Air Force ROTC Admissions Advisor. So we can look through and make sure you're applying to schools that have specific language degree programs, because they are pretty specific, and you just want to make sure you're applying to schools where you'd be able to use that language degree scholarship. So Air Force ROTC is great, and I could talk about Air Force ROTC all day, but the best part about Air Force ROTC is the careers that you get on the other side. So after graduating from Air Force ROTC and commissioning into the Air Force, there are a ton of different opportunities and different careers for you to follow. The Air Force does have pilots. That's a big thing in terms of what the Air Force does, but we also have so many other different jobs. The Air Force has weather officers. We have combat rescue officers. We have people doing intelligence, logistics readiness. Logistics readiness is going to be people who from day one are running the logistics for the Air Force, which is essentially just a gigantic company. And you're going to get great experience running this essentially a large company, which is something that people coming straight out of college just wouldn't have the opportunity to do. They're going to be nuclear missile operators, which are right from day one, are in charge of some of our nation's most important assets. There's people doing force support, aircraft maintenance, public affairs. The Air Force has dentists, doctors, nurses, physician's assistants. There's also developmental engineers, which are people who are working to bring the next generation of technology into the Air Force. There's special investigations, like the FBI for the Air Force. And there's also air battle managers. These are going to be people who control the skies around the combat space. There's also going to be combat systems operators. And if you're interested, the Space Force currently does have an astronaut. Colonel Hopkins was just commissioned into the Space Force from the Air Force. And I was actually lucky enough to meet him. And it was really cool to talk to him and learn about the different ways where an Air Force career and Space Force career can take you, and the different amazing opportunities that you'll have in the Air Force or Space Force. So Air Force benefits. Some of the best Air Force benefits are going to be competitive pay and allowances. The Air Force is going to give you base pay, and then they're also going to give you allowances. Base pay is going to be determined by your grade and then your time and rank. And allowances are going to be determined by where you're living. So the Air Force wants to make sure you can maintain the same quality of life no matter where they send you. So if they send you to a high cost of living area, they're going to increase your allowances so you're able to maintain that same quality of life as if you were in a lower cost of living area where they give you lower allowances. You're also going to have access to 30 days of leave a year, access to higher education through the Air Force Institute of Technology, as well as tuition assistance. You're going to have full coverage, health, and dental insurance for yourself. You're going to have management experience. From day one as an Air Force officer, your job is going to be leading airmen. And that management experience is going to be something where you're given these responsibilities as someone straight out of college. It's going to give you a great opportunity to develop. There's also going to be professional development opportunities. The Air Force is going to want you to become the best officer, the best leader, and the best at your job that you can be. So they're going to spend the time, money, and resources in order to make sure that that happens. So in short, this is kind of a little bit of what I talked about. So now we can move on to questions. If you're interested in ROTC and want me to reach out to you, you can fill out that tiny URL below, and I'll redirect you to a Google form where you can give me your information, and I'll make sure I reach out to you. And then below that is my email, which is WashingtonDC2@AFROTC Admissions.com.